In August of last year, after serving more than 4 years in the Army with deployments to Kuwait and Korea, 24-year-old Greg Morales was getting ready to go home to Oklahoma.
And that Monday, he was supposed to go around and do all of his paperwork to start processing out.
Instead, Private Morales, who was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, vanished. The Army told his mother maybe he just took off, but she knew something was wrong.
They just declared him AWOL and didn't want to believe me that there was something wrong, that he wouldn't just go missing.
After 10 months of frustration, including several phone calls to Army investigators, there was still no sign of Greg. Then, another soldier, 20-year-old Vanessa Guillen, went missing from Fort Hood. Her story received more attention than Greg's, and for her, there was a reward.
I called again, and it's like, as much as she deserves this and she needs her answers and her family needs answers, what about my son? And the next day I got a poster in the mail that said there was a reward. As soon as they raised it to $25,000, 4 days later, suddenly they get a tip.
That tip led investigators to a field in Killeen, Texas, and the remains of Private Greg Morales.
So my problem is, if you had done this 10 months ago, maybe we would have found him. You'd have had some fresh clues, some leads, known a little more about what happened with him.
Fort Hood, nicknamed the Great Place, is home to just under 40,000 working soldiers. Besides Greg Morales and Vanessa Guillen, 6 other Fort Hood soldiers have died since March. At least 3 of them were murdered. Specialist Freddie De La Cruz was shot in an apartment near the base. Specialist Shelby Tyler Jones died from a gunshot wound at a strip club. Private First Class Brandon Rosecrans died of a gunshot wound off base.
How can this happen on military base? How can this happen while she was on duty?
The family of Vanessa Guillen, who was bludgeoned to death with a hammer by a fellow soldier in an armory room, is working with members of Congress to make changes at Fort Hood, specifically in the way the Army deals with sexual harassment. The command at Fort Hood says it is open to change if needed.
Because our credibility on this area is so important is why I've asked for an external review to come in and do it. What matters most to the command here at Fort Hood is we have the best environment for soldiers to train and perform their duties. We take those allegations and all allegations seriously, and we're going to pursue them to our fullest extent.
As for Greg Morales, his case is still under investigation. No arrests have been made. His murder is being investigated by the Army and the city of Killeen, Texas. His family is devastated, knowing he's never coming home.
It's just a big hole in the family. That's the only way to explain it. It's just a huge piece of my heart, huge piece of our life just gone.
So incredibly sad. And then, my son is missing. Oh, he went AWOL? Wait a minute. This is a soldier. This is someone who signed up to serve his country. Can his country not look out for him when he goes missing? Let me bring in Ted Rollins. Ted, this one gets you just as mad as the Vanessa Guillen one, if not more, on many different levels. A mom calls. Her son's a soldier. He's coming home. He didn't come home. And then just to summarily dismiss it. Just dismiss it. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking talking to her. She said, in fact, someone called from the base, from the post, and said, hey, have you seen your son the day he went missing? And she said, no. That, of course, sent off alarm bells for her. She said from then on, they never contacted her. She did finally, she kept calling and calling, and at one point, she sent an email, and they said, well, we don't have your phone number. And she said, what? You don't have my phone number? It's been 10 months, and I've been sitting here on pins and needles. The way the Army has dealt with these families is just horrible. Were they investigating Vanessa Guillen during all this? Likely. Now we know that. But they sure don't have very good bedside manner when it comes to dealing with the families who they believe, who are going through a horrible period of their lives. In fact, the Army said, you'd be surprised how many people go AWOL right before they're finished with their deployments and they're just about to get out. And this mother's saying, what, are you crazy? He was so excited to start the next chapter of his life, was signed up for school. She knew that he was missing, and they just didn't seem to connect it. And then, of course, they put a reward out. 4 days later, boom, they find his body.
Yeah, the reward should be automatic as soon as they go missing. You know, the other part of this is, you know, the bedside manner for with the families. These are families that are. We are sending you our sons and daughters. We are, you know, our sons and daughters are leaving our house and they're going to you. Some level of responsibility, some level of loyalty. How about some level of compassion as well? It's needed. All right. So the family of Greg Morales is waiting for answers there. I don't know if they'll ever get them. But tomorrow, members of Congress now are going to be meeting to get some answers about Fort Hood and sexual harassment claims. Yeah, what's going on there?
Subpanel of the House Armed Services Committee is going to have a session tomorrow. And boy, you got to give it to Vanessa Guillen's family. They have not stood by. They are demanding change. And so tomorrow, because of this vocal family and the millions of people that have surrounded and got behind first the search for her and then the call for change after they found her body, they're going to have a hearing tomorrow. They're going to go through the SHARP program. That's the existing program in the Army for sexual harassment claims, a program that many people believe has flaws. Inspector General has done an investigation. He'll testify there. A representative from that office will testify during the hearing. You know, it seems like lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are really interested in finding out what needs to be done at Fort Hood and possibly other military installations.
You know, Ted, you make a great point about Vanessa Guillen's family, and I think it's a lesson, and they're like a role model for victims' families around the country. For anywhere. And it doesn't just have to be in the Army. I mean, if your loved one is missing, and whether it's police, whoever it is that's not doing their job or not paying attention, make some noise. Keep making the noise, because eventually you will be heard. And that's when sometimes, you know, the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's what you have to do. And we've seen it time and time again in stories that we cover. People are like, well, why did you never cover that story? Why'd you cover this one? Sometimes it's because that family got our attention, or got the attention of someone who then we got the attention of. So, you know, a great lesson, but it takes courage, and not everyone can do it because you're in your worst moment. So
and
the family, though, is headed to Washington.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and hats off to the attorney that has helped the Guillen family, because she is a bulldog as well. In fact, as you were just going to mention, on Thursday, the family is all going to be in Washington, and they're going to unveil a new bill that is the I Am Vanessa Guillen bill, which is going to prescribe a mechanism to where a third party can be contacted when someone does have a sexual harassment claim. And they're going to have a press conference. They're going to march to the White House. They're even going to meet with President Trump. You have a situation here where this family and this attorney has been able to bring both sides of Washington together, and we'll see it take place on Thursday. They'll meet with President Trump, and also the lawmakers that introduced this bill will be from both sides of the aisle. Pretty extraordinary.
Extraordinary. They deserve it, and they should be a role model and a lesson for all those families out there that have been wronged by the government somewhere. Make some noise. Ted Rollins, thank you so much.
You bet.